Gosh, man, my relationship with the name of the wind is basically, do I love it? Do I hate it? Do I love it? Do I hate it? Do I love it? Do I hate it?
One eternity later.
Okay. I will restart over. The issue is that every time few months go by, I end up having to reread this book because I love it so much. I miss reading this book. I love it so much. But every time I finish this book, I find myself angry. I find myself unsatisfied. I find myself that, man, there is just something missing here, something fundamental, something basic, and I don't know what it is. But I think I finally put a nail on what my issue with the name of the wind is. Of course, the second half of this video will be actually exploring the things I love about it. But first of all, I want to clarify this one, because the reason why I hate this book and the reason why it frustrates me every time I reread it, I think I finally found it. By the way, I do daily uploads. If you enjoy this one, please consider subscribing. To me, when I started reading this story the first time, I was not hooked. I was not hooked by this guy's events in the university. I was not hooked by this Kavoth dude in university. I was hooked by, oh my God, look at that man. That man is a hero unlike any other. He is the hero of ages. He is one of the coolest wizards to have ever existed. But now he is in mud. Like now he's just in some irrelevant tavern and he is doing nothing with his life. And his life has gone down the drain. And he himself doesn't feel motivated. This is why, at its heart, is why I fell in love with Name of the Wind. When I read that first opening line, A Silence of 3 Parts, this is why I fell in love with the Name of the Wind. But Patrick Rothfuss fails in every direction to deliver us back to that. Because this is what I was expecting, right? Of course, we see this hero, right? We are hooked by, okay, we're going to find out what happened to this guy. But what I expected is the first book, when it finishes, we would know what happened to him, and then he would become a hero. He would have a complete character arc for the first book. Instead, what ends up happening is that for 70% of the book, even though I love the book, even though I love the world, even though I like how muddy it is, how gritty it is, how realistic it is, even though I love the prose, even though I love the language, it felt as though I was betrayed, because guess what? I am reading this so that I can find out what happened to the guy, not so that I can follow him to university, because I don't give a fuck about that. And this is why I actually don't like the Name of the Wind. I love it. I reread it every few months, but I hate it. I hate this book because the author is so inefficient. The author is so slow. He's so humdrum. He is so technically just interested in Kavoth being at university and having a rival and all of that, instead of telling a story that is actually engaging and is interesting. And this is the issue, because even in book 2, I finished it, I read it, I found myself extremely dissatisfied. All the questions that Patrick Rothfuss asks in this book, they are rarely ever answered. They are rarely ever answered. I will repeat that one more time. They are rarely ever answered. And moreover, most of the runtime is spent following this guy in university, when we were hooked by knowing what made this great wizard, what dropped this great wizard, the best of all, down to the mud. What is it? I want to know. I'm very curious. I really am very curious, even though I have learned so much from this book when it comes to writing prose. I found myself very pissed off every time I finished this book. And this is why. Because it is, in terms of plot, extremely inefficient. It is, in terms of promise, technically a lie. Because even by the end of book 2, we still don't find out what happened to Kavoth. But we should have by book 2. Why do I love it? Everything else. I love the world. I love the prose. Especially the prose. It's so beautiful. I end up rereading it every now and then, just to sort of pick up what good prose looks like. Okay, and I love Kavoth. Kavoth as a character is an extremely complicated individual. I love how, you know, Patrick Rothfuss has a morally gray character, because there's a lot of bad shit that is happening in the real world and Kavod is doing nothing about it because of apathy. He has a flaw, in other words. And this is beautiful because a story with a protagonist that has a flaw is a good story. And what is even better is a story where the objective is to have this protagonist overcome the flaw. To me, that is like peanut butter and jelly. Like this, to me, that is flawless. That is beautiful. If you can do that, you are technically, to me, a great person, right? So that is why I love, Name of the Wind. Everything else. The only issue is how narratively inefficient this story is. How it drags, it meanders, it takes on tangents, and a lot of the story just feels extremely irrelevant and redundant. I hope I have put that into good words or something understandable, because from my perspective, this video was a mess. I really didn't know how to even start this. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed. I do daily uploads, and if you did, please consider subscribing. Have a nice day.